All right, what's up, guys? We're back at Dad's Balls Sportscasting and Podcast. We've been away for a while.
Oh,
We've been away for a while, as they say. We've just been figuring out life. We had to do the
been more
old.
than a month. That's wild.
Yeah, it has. I think the last episode we did was right after Christmas.
Yeah, first, second week of January. It was the Rams Niners game that we streamed.
Yes. So for everyone who doesn't know, um, so we had a stream, the episode that we did on like a live stream on Twitch, and we were streaming illegally the Rams Niners game, last game of the season. And Twitch banned our account like indefinitely. I haven't even checked. I probably should check if we're
Oh,
still
really? Yeah, you should check that out.
well, so I mean, we still have our YouTube account, so this is not live. We're just recording this, and I'm gonna upload it to the YouTube channel. But I do want to do something like that again. I think we all had fun doing it.
Yeah, we had a blast.
Like what we could do too to get around some of the the copyright issues. Like we could
Man.
next time like put the link in the Twitch chat and then just kind of like not have it up on our
Yeah.
Twitch, but everyone watching it comment on
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
So we could see. I mean, I'd just make another Twitch account if need be. But big news.
Yeah.
I think since then we figured out we're moving to Miami. The three dads.
Miami, baby.
The three
I'm
balls.
going to Miami.
The three balls. The three dads are headed to Miami on May 1st. That's supposedly when our lease will start.
The goal.
Yeah, and then Miami for 7+ months, and then probably New York. So soon we will be doing live shows. We'll have all three of us.
Thank goodness.
All three of us together in a room, dude. That's some
Just in
chaos.
times for NBA playoffs.
Yeah, no, that'll be great. It was a bummer.
Yeah.
We had our hiatus during like a great. That I guess that's what our first topic can be. We'll just kind of recap like an amazing NFL playoff,
Yeah.
like postseason.
Super Bowl.
Like
Yeah,
Super Bowl, like the weeks leading up to it, the conference.
You're right. You're right. The
Sure.
different playoff runs all were amazing.
We're amazing. Like the 49ers, like who would have thought they would have beat the America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, and then beat Aaron Rodgers.
Another crazy one.
Crazy run, and then of course you have the Bengals with Joey.
Who nobody thought they were going. No one. I mean, especially you rewind to like the beginning of the season. Nobody had the Bengals.
No, and most people thought like, oh, Justin Herbert or like Joe Burrow, like, oh, it looks like Justin Herbert was the underdog pick, was the most valuable pick, but I don't think anyone's thinking that anymore.
You're right. You're right. I mean, he's also been balling out himself, but
Oh, totally.
like
Made the Pro
Joe
Bowl.
Burrow.
No.
Yeah, Joe Burrow's on pace right now to. I mean, even without winning the Super Bowl yet in his second year,
Yeah.
he's on pace right now for a Hall of Fame season. I mean, that could be an understatement in the long run. It's
Yeah.
too early to say now, but like
Well,
he's
it's his
on pace to
second
be one of the
year.
best ever. Right.
It's his second year. And
Which
so he's
You
on
can't be the best ever if you don't start your first 2 years like the best ever, you know?
well, he's on the Mahomes pace right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would say he's already surpassed like Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson did win an MVP, but his like the postseason has not been kind to Lamar
He could
Jackson.
carry the team on his own this last season. Like the Ravens really kind of fell apart as the superpower that they were the year before. I mean,
Yeah.
year before you see the Ravens on the schedule and you're like, oh shit, towards the end of this season, no one was that worried about them.
No, and he did not have a good. I mean, he got hurt, but he did not. Before he got hurt, he did not have a great season.
Yeah.
So things are shifting, man. Things are. There was a like I do have to say, and this I guess this can tie into our next topic too, but like the whole thing on Twitter was like, how good are these NFL script writers? Like the whole season was a great, just dramatic like sports season I've seen in a while, honestly, in any sport. Really up and down teams, from the Cardinals to the Rams, to some of the like the fall of Patrick Mahomes, the rise, the fall.
I'm so happy that he didn't like even go to the Super Bowl this year. I was just so done with hearing about the Chiefs dynasty that's about to start. And not to say it won't. They've got a great team, but I was just like they needed to stop talking.
No, and I think it was good. That was another thing is I think like mostly everyone, like it's hard. I feel like for anyone to say like, oh, this year sucked. It had like everything. Like even the Detroit Lions like had some good moral victories. Like everyone everyone kind of had their like day or their thing. Like barring a few teams like the Colts maybe, or the Baltimore Ravens.
I mean, the Colts kept it interesting. I think in the beginning of the season, no one thought they were going to do anything, and in the middle of the season, people were like watch out for the Colts. They're gonna, be running it. And by the end of the season, they fizzled out. They weren't. They were just what we thought they would be at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
they still kept us on our toes.
No, and that's why I just have to say, like, it was there was because a lot of like NFL, a lot of NFL football games can be like blowouts or just like whatever. I felt like almost every game it was like even like the last game of the season between the Chargers and the Raiders, it was like whoever wins gets in the playoffs. If they tie, they can both go. And of course, the Raiders were like, "Fuck you."
I also feel like maybe it's recency bias, but like just some I feel like a lot more crazy plays happened. I mean, maybe in this postseason or whatever, just like those toss-up 50-50 balls that like one person's coming down with, and that decides the game. I feel like there was a bit more craziness in that regard.
I think so, and I also just think like there's I think it's like the NFL is in such a power shift, like where like Brady is retired, supposedly. I don't know, people think he might come back, but Brady's retired. Roethlisberger's out. Aaron Rodgers is like, is he gonna like? He's crying on IG about him breaking up with that one chick, that actress.
Yeah.
He's all over.
Which we know for sure that didn't have anything to do with this vaccination stance, I'm sure.
No, and then he apologized too. He apologized about all the whole COVID mess. He's like, I hurt people around me, and I was like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah, no shit.
So he definitely had one too many, and went on IG. So it's kind of, and then there's all these new like quarterbacks coming in, like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. We still have Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are still like super young. Like you have and then you have like Trevor Lawrence. Such a shift in power.
Such an afterthought, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I hate to say it.
No, he did. I mean, like he didn't just not do well as a quarterback. Like it wasn't just because the Jaguars. I mean, it's hard to say because the Jaguars are a bad team.
Yeah.
But he did not like he. It wasn't like he was good and the team was bad. Like he did bad too.
Yeah, and I mean that's where the Joe Burrow. So here's the big thing for the listeners who don't know is like the Bengals have always been the doormat, or not always. They've been to the Super Bowl, I think, once or twice. But for like, they hadn't won a playoff game in like 40 years or something, and that was like the big story. And then all of a sudden, they're like going to the Super Bowl, and the year before this year or last year, they were a 4-win team, and now they went to the Super Bowl. So it's hard to make an excuse now.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Burrow's really raised the bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, that is, it was unfortunate that we didn't do any shows during all that happening. We were planning for Miami, you know? We were trying to figure out how to get the boys in Miami. So it'll be worth it in the long run.
For sure. Absolutely. We just saved our best takes for when the football season's over.
We'll just do like a retroactive podcast.
Honestly, watching like the Super Bowl again could be fun.
There were so many great games. God, there were so many great games. I'm impartial, but the Rams games were really fun to watch. Even when it looked like they were gonna blow out the Bucks, like here comes Tom, down.
And you know what, the postseason really makes me wonder what the Niners are gonna do next season, because like going into the postseason where we made the playoffs, I was like pretty sure this was going to be Jimmy G's last year running the Niners offense. Yeah. I shouldn't say I was pretty sure, but I was hoping. Like, yeah. I'm off the Jimmy G train. And the playoffs, I flip-flopped so many times, like where like when he made that comeback drive against the Cowboys, I was like, oh, he just earned his spot back. Like he's the starting quarterback. Like there's nothing we can say about it.
Yeah.
And then in the Rams game, I flip-flopped like 3 times where I was like, oh, he's done. And then I was like, oh, he earned it back. And then it's like at the end, it's like, well, now I've been on both sides so many times, I don't know which way they're going to go.
Yeah, no, that was why I feel like this football season was so great. Is nothing was set in stone. Like whoever, if there was one take at a moment in time, that take was at jeopardy, like 100%. Like I was the same way during the regular season with Matt Stafford. I was like, at the beginning, I was like, dude, he is what we've been missing. Like Jared Goff, like piece of shit. And then there was that loss streak, and
throwing wild balls,
throwing like the dumbest like interceptions, and I'm just like, oh god, like we literally gave up all this stuff just for this guy. And then postseason comes around and like he's insane. There'll be a lot. I'm gonna be interested. There's already talks of like trade talks, free agency. So we'll definitely football. We'll
circle back on that one.
Still talk about football, for sure. But the sport that is happening though is basketball. And we just got done with a pretty lackluster All-Star weekend. Which I'm not surprised. It's kind of been trending towards this direction.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows the dunk contest is clearly fallen off. Like, it's just not, it doesn't have the same excitement that it used to. I mean, when you got YouTube stars throwing, like, way crazier dunks, than NBA players, it's like, why do I really care who the best dunker in the NBA is if they're not the best dunker?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't really, and so they're doing, gimmicky shit to, like, stand out or whatever, but nothing's like raising the bar,
Yeah, no, and that's where and it really came to a screeching halt this All-Star weekend, because the dunk contest was awful. Jalen Green, the rookie on the Rockets, he was He was like something crazy, like 1 in 9 on his dunk
Well,
attempts.
they have to change the definition of a dunk attempt. Like they just do because he tried like 5 times in a row unsuccessfully, and they're like, that doesn't count as an attempt. He still
Yeah.
hasn't taken an attempt yet because he hasn't like actively thrown the ball downwards at the hoop. And it's like he's had a guy toss it and he's jumped in the air and spun around and then just done nothing with the ball 5 times, and you're not going to count that as one try. Like, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, no, and his assist guy or whatever was just like fucking up,
Fucking up.
like, and then there was just a bunch of them. I mean, even like Cole Anthony like missed a bunch, and then after it went on Twitter and was like, "I'm sorry, I'm only shooting layups from now on," and
Yeah, it just wasn't impressive. Obi Toppin jumped over a guy, and like it wasn't that tall of a guy. Like,
yeah.
like you're supposed to. You got people like pulling in other NBA players and jumping over them. Like this guy was just like an average sized guy.
No, yeah, you had like what, like Nate Robinson or whatever, like he was in it once and he was like dunking or something, and he was like what? He was like one of the smallest players in the league.
Yeah, what? Blake Griffin went over a car. You're just gonna
Yeah.
grab like middle-aged Joe from the front row of the stands, and I should
Yeah.
look up who that was. I feel bad I'm trashing on him, but he's just like a regular looking dude. Like,
No, and this is a funny article. It says, yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo hilariously blames Steph Curry for awful slam dunk contest, which is a good point. I heard some commentators, some like whatever on pundits on ESPN or Fox or whatever, was saying like they and even actually I think like a few of the like NBA commenters were saying during the dunk contest were saying like the 3-point contest should be the last thing because that's what people care about.
exactly. I mean, that was the culminate. Like that's the only thing anybody cares about anymore. I was gonna say that like, I think a couple of years ago, I remember being excited for the skills challenge.
Yeah,
We were like,
yeah.
okay, you get to see these guys go head to head and do some stuff, but now it just feels like a carnival game. It's like so quick and so like gimmicky. It's just like I don't. It's not exciting anymore. But the 3 point contest every single time, that's great. That's the only thing that makes that entire weekend like worth anything.
Yeah, no, and that's where I think like the NBA, and this has kind of been like a like fact too, is like the NBA has kind of struggled as of late with just like ratings and like profit compared to like the NFL, which is like part of the reason we want to talk about the NFL season first being so great is like we go to this NBA season now. I honestly stopped watching a lot of games like before the All-Star game. And then I
Yeah, I
didn't
did
even
too.
watch the All-Star weekend stuff cuz I was just like who gives like who cares? Like these players don't care. I'm seeing like Ja Morant like chug a bottle of like tequila on his way. Like he's obviously like this is his break, he's partying, which I don't blame him. But for me as a viewer, like I'm like, there's nothing's gonna become clear to like Rams versus Bengals or
No,
Rams
for sure.
versus like Niners.
For sure. We'll say regarding the 3 point contest, Cat did set a record
Did he?
in the final round. Yeah, most points scored in the final round of a 3 point contest, and like hats off. I mean, Cat is like we know he can shoot, but to be a center and show up and win the 3 point contest, that's pretty baller.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's pretty funny because people have been talking about like the Lakers should trade Anthony Davis, and one of the targets has been Cat. I've heard people
That'd be
talking
sweet.
about Cat. Cat. It's up and down with him, man. He,
Sure.
like him and Wiggins were together, and they had Jimmy Butler too. Got knocked in the first round. and right now they're okay. Honestly, Anthony Edwards
Anthony Edwards is giving them a lot of life.
he is taking over the team. I mean,
For sure.
it's
No, and Cat's going to be out of there. I guarantee it.
yeah.
I think he's got like 2 more years on his contract or something like that. I bet they trade him to get some value back, and he wants out. Like, maybe Anthony Edwards is enough to make him feel like they've got a chance and want to stay, but after the history he's had with that team, I don't think so.
That's why, and then that's why I mean that trade makes a good deal of sense, especially because LeBron keeps on talking about different stuff, like going back to Cleveland.
You think he's gonna go back to Cleveland?
I don't think so, but I have no idea. And then he's talking about like whatever team I'm gonna play with or end my career with is whoever drafts Bronny, and I'm just like, dude, what?
Oh yeah, I saw that too. I saw that. We've got 2 more years until Bronny gets drafted, something like that.
I think so. I think he's a junior right now, right?
Yeah. So and he's got to go to college for a year.
But
so
that's
it's, okay. So 3 years, and then he gets drafted.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
That's a long time to be talking about. That's a long time from now.
So that's where Lakers. That could be something there, man. But going back to the NBA stuff, like rating stuff is like even the All-Star game. I don't think like barely anyone cares about. This one was a little bit better because like Steph just like literally shot 27 threes and like happened to make like 15 of them or something.
Yeah. He was, I think, 1 point away from the all-time All-Star game record for points. He just made it rain. And there were some great dunks, like make the dunk contest look a lot less interesting when in the game people are balling out like that.
Ja Morant, man.
Yeah.
Like,
but people, I mean, the players don't want to risk like they don't play. It's just like, it's basically like going to see the Harlem Globetrotters. Like, they're just like putting on a show and doing flashy shit. And because they're good at basketball, it works most of the time when they do that.
Yeah.
If no one's playing defense. And so it's just like you're going to see a show. You're not going to watch basketball.
And and people have thrown around different ideas. I think even like the commissioner's office has like possibly playing for money. Well, they've talked about an in-season tournament for like, I think each player on the winning team gets like $1 million.
I really like that idea a lot. Really like that idea.
Yeah, and maybe you just replace the All-Star weekend with that, and then you just give the players a break like after that.
You still want a 3-point contest though.
Well, that is true, but
can't get rid of that one.
Well, the tournament would just be a part of or whatever, leading up to it or whatever. Also people have talked about this is like a classic thing is like one-on-one, having like a one-on-one tournament.
Whoa. That'd be super interesting.
And there's a bunch of like you can see it like on the USA men's basketball team. They'll do like all the good players are on the team and they'll do like 1v1 drills. Like people have said like just dude, everyone would love to see the best players just going like head to head 1v1 like
that would be sweet.
1v1 tournament,
I bet it'd get really like personal and dramatic as well. Like you get some hissy fit, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what people want to see.
Exactly. Give the people what they want. Quick. Oh no! Go ahead.
No. What were you gonna say?
I've got a side note. I looked up who it was that Obi Toppin jumped over in the first round of the dunk contest, and he's 5'10", by the way. So it's like it's an average-sized guy. Nothing too crazy there. But his name is Chuck Milan, and he's a dunking coach that like people know. So he's like known in the NBA or whatever. So he grabbed this guy that people know. The guy just like an average-sized dude, and like there's nothing flashy about that.
Yeah, no, and that's where they need to bring in something else like Like they really do. It was very stale. It's just like this whole season. To me, after watching that football season, this NBA season is felt super stale.
Yeah, it is still like the middle of the NBA season always feels just boring and down. You lose that like excitement from the beginning and you're just waiting for the end and it's this like middle portion where everyone's like grumpy and nobody likes it. And that's why a mid-season tournament would be awesome because it would revitalize the interest.
Yeah, and so that's yeah, they've talked about let me look it up for sure, but they talked about it possibly for this season, but I think they're like, no, let's do it next season.
Yeah.
Or they said, yeah, it's unlikely for 2022, but they might try it after that. So the other going into the other portion, or the other another idea was Daryl Morey, GM for the Rockets for the longest time, now GM for the 76ers. He went on Colin Cowherd and said he would like to cut down the season to 58 games. I think, what is it now? It's 82?
83.
83? So, and his argument was kind of what we were talking about is like, it just like there's this lull where like it's like who cares, honestly. Even like your own team, I don't know. There's it's just it drags on, and then it goes, that kind of like staleness like seeps into the All-Star weekend, I think, and people are just like still just like like wake me up when the postseason comes around.
Yeah, and it's definitely fair. Like I understand where that sentiment's coming from. I get bored in the middle of the season, and the fact that there are so many games makes any given game less important, and so
Yeah.
people play less defense, and they don't like necessarily care about winning every single game. Uh, but and sometimes during the week, like play fantasy basketball, and I'm like, I've got to set my lineup on Tuesday. Like, why does there need to be like four basketball games going on any given Tuesday? There doesn't really need to be. Like we've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I could see you scrapping games out of there. But then every once in a while, it's like a Tuesday, and I'm like bored, and I'm like, oh, there's a basketball game on, and then
Yeah.
I'm like super stoked about it.
Yeah, I guess I would the other argument, which I totally see, is like with football is like you have Thursday, you have Sunday, and you have Monday. And those are like the Lord's days, And
Yeah.
it's like they're so like worshipped and looked forward to that it makes up for those days. Like almost those days where you don't have football is what
Yeah.
creates that excitement for like Sunday. Like, and that's where I think
Yeah.
like,
And that's really interesting. What's really cool about football is it happens on the days where you're probably not going to make big plans.
yeah,
You know, like no one's like really making big plans for Sunday,
no.
night or whatever. Like you're getting ready for the week.
Oh, it's
And
calculated. It's calculated. Yeah.
right, no, but I it's funny because I was thinking about basketball and being like those are the days that you can cut out. But that's what makes football so great. That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, and then now those days just become like football Sunday. I mean, like football Sunday is football Sunday because there's nothing else and there's football. Like that that's like that's what I think like the NBA needs to be a little bit like, and I've heard people talk about the MLB too. I mean, talk about baseball. Baseball is
Yeah.
like I don't how much like 200, 300
It's
games.
insane. It's way too many. They
Um
don't need to be playing that many games.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where like I think like the NBA needs to take a page out of the NFL's book and almost um like less is more, Less can be more in a lot of situations. Like like that's just a human like that's just like human behavior like type of thing. Like you give them I mean, it's a little bit, you hate to say it, but it's a little bit like an addict. You give them a taste, and then you hold it off, and then when it comes around, like
Yeah.
they'll really be excited for it. And like a few of like the numbers are there. I mean, NBC said it estimated 101.1 million viewers watched the Super Bowl this year, and then with an additional 11 million streaming the game,
Wow.
and then 100 million unique viewers tuned in to watch the AFC and NFC championship games, which the NBA said that they averaged about 12.5 million viewers for the finals.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's that glaring thing, man.
It's tough though because the finals are like 7 games, and you get the number of people that are gonna watch 7, like be available to watch 7 games
Well, that's
or
the
whatever.
point. That's the point.
Yeah,
I think.
but I love the series. Like I
Yeah.
I think that those are two different discussions. Like we can talk about shortening games, like the number of games in the regular season. I could be more swayed in terms of,
I think
cutting down a
yeah,
little bit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the series, like I think that's such a fundamental aspect of what makes playoff basketball so good, because it emphasizes the chess match of basketball. And it says, okay, we're going to show up with our game plans, see what happens round 1. Round 2, how is my opponent going to adapt to what I did, and what do I need to do? And it turns it into this whole strategy thing where like drama can play out, and players can get mad at each other in game 1 and still have to play each other like a bunch of times.
True.
I don't think you can get rid of that.
Yeah. So Daryl Morey did say, he also said like one and done, meaning like NCAA tournament, March Madness style. It's like you lose a game, you're out. Which in that's another like glaring difference, where like less is more, where like no one gives a crap about regular season men's basketball until March Madness. Everyone wants. I mean, I hear like so many random people who never talk about basketball, never think about basketball, be like, "Oh, March Madness! Like, I really want
making a bracket."
Yeah, making a bracket, or like I'm really rooting for whoever. I think that's another good model. That's a really good model.
I do too, but I think it fits appropriately for the mid-season tournament.
No, I agree.
Like you make that shit like super high stakes, and then you don't dilute the, I don't know, nuanced strategy and skill set of coaching or whatever that has to be applied in playoff basketball.
Yeah.
Because like you also think about how like there are players that we talk about as being great in the playoffs, and that's part of why those players are great in the playoffs and not in the regular season, is because it's a different environment.
True. I just so most people aren't like basketball enthusiasts. That's the point, I think.
Yeah.
And whether we want to admit it or not is like we all love the fucking drama, and there's a lot of drama with those single elimination tournaments. People love an underdog. I think that was the biggest story from this NFL postseason, was like the Niners, the Bengals, like different underdogs. Like people love an underdog story, and I think what I would do, I think I would just shorten. I would shorten not the finals. Actually, I would shorten all of it, honestly. What I would do is I would have, outside of the final, I'd have the finals be best out of 5, and I'd have all of them before that be best out of 3. They actually used to be best out of 3 back in the day. I think they changed it.
I really hear what you're saying, and I can almost get on board, but all that really coming through is that's less basketball.
Yeah, but you have to think about it from a behavioral standpoint. It's like the best, like, man, when I haven't had Taco Bell in a while, it's like, and then you're like, you know what, tonight I'm gonna get a crunchy wrap and like a Baja Blast freeze, and it's like that
That-
is the
you bring up good
best.
points.
That's the best. That's why I think about this football season. Actually, I've never like, I mean, I'll like keep track of the football seasons, but this past football season, I was just like so invested, even outside of the Rams. Like, of course I'm a Rams fan. I'm gonna watch the Rams games, but like I'd watch all the Niners games. I watched almost all of them except for like a few of the first rounds. Um, it was just so exciting, and like I just remember like, yeah, watching that Bengals Chiefs game and just like thinking like, man, I don't remember, I haven't seen a basketball game that I've been as excited about in a while. Um,
Yeah.
I guess also to like, to be fair, like
Well,
Suns Bucks wasn't the most thrilling.
right. Yeah, and like the bubble and all that nonsense. Like, you remember the like Raptors Warriors final before the pandemic? That shit was intense as hell. That's the same playoffs that Kawhi Leonard hit the four bounces shot.
Yeah.
Uh,
I didn't, well, honestly, I didn't, I think the last, like, amazing finals I've watched was 16, like 2016. Of course, that was, like, amazing.
yeah, yeah. Well, this year for the playoffs and finals, we will be situated in Miami, and we're gonna remember this postseason. I guarantee it.
We'll
It's gonna be a
definitely,
big one.
we will definitely. I don't, but is that because of the NBA or is that because of us? you know?
Yeah, we'll have to see. What we can say is that the NBA is on notice that there was a big football season. The NBA's got to step up their shit, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's ideas floated around between the commissioner Adam Silver, and different people, like random people on Twitter. I think they need to like start like chop chop. Like I think they're getting crushed in the ratings and everything. Like they need to. Something's got to happen, even from a
Yeah,
an very diehard NBA basketball fan. I
you
see
got to
that.
raise the stakes a bit here.
Yeah, raise the stakes. Like liven things up a little bit. Create some like get some more drama in there. It doesn't have to be like Malice at the Palace drama, but it could just be like drama. Just two teams like I just remember like that. Yeah, LeBron versus Steph, Clay.
Oh man, that was such an era.
That was such an
That was
era.
such a nice run of
That was
basketball.
that was such yeah, and I'm afraid we're losing some of that. Like I love Giannis, and I'm glad the Suns are good again.
But
But it's
I bet, buddy, after like a really good couple of years, feels that way. Like after the Bulls did what they did in the '90s, I'm sure the 2 years after that, people were like,
yeah, yeah,
"Man, I can't believe basketball's over." Like I can't. Michael Jordan's like
yeah.
retired.
No, that is true.
Basketball's just done, and then Showtime, a new version of Showtime Lakers with Kobe and Shaq comes around, and all of a sudden, records are getting broken, and people give a shit again.
Yeah, no, I mean that is a really good point. I'm wondering when they changed the playoff. Uh, um, But yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, I've also heard people say like, make the playoff NBA playoffs like only 8 total teams, and then that way the regular season is there's more at stake.
Yeah,
Like you're not just like a shoe in. Like a lot of teams right now are just coasting.
Yeah.
The play-in tournament definitely I think has helped, but
You're right. Play-in tournament definitely helps, but I think that could get achieved by just. I think the most fundamental thing is you shorten the regular
I think
season.
you have to. Yeah.
Then, like I am starting to get on board with that because then where it's decided that like a team can afford to coast at a given point,
Yeah.
and if there's fewer games, that point will get reached. Uh, later into the percentage wise of the season.
Yeah, and I just think like a certain like teams play each other like 4 times. I'm like, dude, like that's why it's like a good matchup, like say like the Lakers and the Nets or something. It's like, well, they'll play like, well, they're not in the same conference, so not them, but like Warriors Lakers.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, they're gonna play 4 times. Like, I'll just watch it again. I'll watch it the next time. You know? That's where if you shorten it down, you have every team play each other twice. You just like those games are more like will probably be more watched, honestly, because it's like, well, they only play twice. I want to see them. So
yeah, no, I can get on board.
It'd be an interesting thing. I mean, we'll be in Miami together. Let's revisit this when we're watching the playoffs and be like, how much fun are we having right now? You know.
Yeah, when it's game 2 of a 7-game series, it's 1-1. I don't know, man. I think we're gonna be having a time and a half.
No, I think I more look at it like when it's like 2-0 and it's like the Bucks versus like the Hornets, and you're just like, dude, we still have 2 more games of this slaughter.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think
that's fair.
And I think most series end up being like that early. I mean, because if you think about
first round for sure.
First round has
the first round.
like 4 matchups, 8 total, I think. So a majority of the playoff games are those first round matchups that are usually not like the greatest.
It's a high seed versus a low seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why I'm just like maybe bring those like first rounds like best out of 3. So it's like, man, either you're gonna make it a series or you're not.
Yeah, you could do best of 3, best of 5, best of 7.
Yeah, like something like that maybe.
Maybe.
Like another thing too, which like the in season tournament, is like that's like soccer, like European soccer, like the English league. A lot of the leagues like they'll. Like the English league, the Premier League, which is like the most watched league, doesn't even have like a championship or like a finals. It's just like, it is literally.
Really?
Yeah. They have a few in-game like cups, which are like the tournaments or in-season tournaments.
And then it's just like best record, most goals. Right?
It's best record, and then the record's determined by like a win is 3 points, a tie is 1.
That's very anticlimactic.
But they have the in-season tournaments, and they have other tournaments like the Champions League, which is like a league for like all the best teams in all the different like countries. So like if you're a fan of like Manchester United, you like watch the games. There's also like you watch the games and then you watch some of the tournaments. But then they'll also be like in the Champions League at the same time, and so you watch that.
Sure.
And so it's I don't know if I'm saying
it's weird.
do that.
My fantasy football league that I'm in with Matt Weiner, ours is like that. There's no playoffs and there's no final. It's best record wins at the end.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, there's always like a matchup. Not always, but there's usually a matchup that's going to decide it.
Exactly.
And maybe that's like a week earlier or 2 weeks earlier than when the actual end of the season is. But that's always really intense, like a finals or whatever.
Well, and I think that's what it's supposed to. Yeah, that's like the equivalent.
Yeah. And I really like that because I'm also in leagues that have playoffs. And for fantasy football, I hate the fact that like if I happen to play Tyreek Hill, the first round of the playoffs and he scores 45 points, I'm out of the playoffs. Not because my team is worse, because that was the game that Tyreek Hill got 45 points.
Yeah.
But that it does add such a climax to the end of a season. So I can't even imagine a professional sports league to not have that.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I guess maybe that's where the tournaments they have tournaments all the time, so I guess that kind of fulfills that need. I guess
yeah, I guess you're right. That's wild.
And I think what you can see is the team that wins the cup or the tournament, that's a title. So it's not so there's different types of titles. It's not it's all or nothing, it's either you're the NBA champion or you're not. It's maybe you have more tournaments with different titles, and so you'd be maybe one season this team wins the in-season tournament, but then another team wins the finals, and in that way it's not a winner take all. It's
it's they're the Manchester Cup winners, and they're the other winners.
The other thing I've mentioned before, which I would actually love, is having
relegation.
Dude, relegation. I love that about.
I talk about raising the stakes, right?
I love that. I love that idea, dude.
I do too, but there's no way in hell they do it.
That's why I just think Americans.
There's too much money.
Americans sometimes
in these organizations.
Okay, but here's my point. Here's my counterpoint to that. Is I saw something on Twitter. I don't know if you saw this either. They for every NFL team, they said the purchase point, or how much it was bought for. And a lot of the newer teams, they were bought for millions or whatever. Newer teams billions. Back in the day, the Chicago Bears was bought for $100.
Yeah.
In the 20s. Yeah. So my point, I guess, is a team is only valued at what its as perception of it is. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. No, I get that, but I think what's distinct from Europe is that the United States has a culture where if there's a team that represents a city or whatever, that city is that team is part of that city's identity, to the point in which you couldn't relegate Los Angeles.
No, so here would be my counter argument, which that's definitely a good. That's an interesting point for sure. I think what it would do is it would hold, as a fan of a certain city's team, you can hold them more accountable. You can hold the front office and the owners more accountable. Yeah. Being hey, screw you. You can't just pay your coach to throw the season. No, screw you. You're gonna lose a lot of value. Money is on the line. You want to have some way to get team owners to get their shit together. It'd be to put the money on the line.
Yeah, you make excellent points. I think relegation would be nothing but good for any given league. Yeah. Any given league, because then there's no incentive. You're punished if you do bad.
Yeah.
That's important sometimes.
Well,
I just don't think our system, the systems that are in place, will not allow that to happen.
No, and that's just we can go into American politics and American infrastructure, and that is the typical. That is I can't think of a better representation of America. Is there's a system in place, okay, and we can't change it because it's in place.
No, I know that would incentivize everybody and make a whole lot of sense. Yeah. But it's not gonna work with the way that we do things. You know?
Yeah, but that's and that's so funny because that's the argument, and it's just well, but we just change it, and I mean, the NFL, that would never happen because NFL owners like own the league. I think if any
Yeah.
sport, it could like potentially in basketball, just because the commissioner actually like has authority in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. And part of it is like here's my point, especially for basketball, is the Pelicans, the New Orleans Pelicans. How many different locations and team names have they been over the
Sure.
last 2 decades?
Sure.
What's the difference? What's the difference?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's a really good point, because then it's like, okay, like you're not doing great here. You're just moving and changing names or whatever. But if there was relegation, you could be giving another organization a chance at doing better.
you can get another
And
city,
yeah,
another buyer. Like that's the problem I think with a lot of American sports is ownership is just has way too much control.
do you think Charlotte would still have a team if that happened? You know, like you take these really small market teams, and they run into like a couple bad injuries,
Yeah.
and their team drops off, and now they get relegated. You think they have enough backing to get back in the league?
I think what would happen is something what's already happened. Is Charlotte got a new team, a new owner, got Jordan, and
Yeah.
kind of like restructured the brand, and that's what I think needs to happen. I think like right
Yeah.
now, like if I had to pick a team, like the Pelicans, like what need to be changed, like that organization needs to be.
Yeah, it's nothing at this point.
I mean, that was one topic we were going to talk about. I don't know if we still will, but Zion, like, basically wants out. Like, he won't talk to anyone. Like, he hasn't reached out to CJ McCollum, who they just traded for. Um, Anthony Davis wanted out. Like that. Like that's just a tainted franchise. Like,
Yeah,
and I just
with
think,
no clear path to correct it.
yeah, and in the business world, you get eaten. You die out
Yeah.
or you get eaten, and like there needs to be more friendly competition. Like that's where I've heard a lot of people with the whole like Brian Flores stuff. He came out, one of the head coach for the ex head coach for the Dolphins, came out and said the Dolphins owner was paying him like $200K a game to tank games. And everyone's like, dude, this guy the owner should relinquish ownership of the franchise because that just goes against everything
Yeah.
the league stands for. And it probably won't happen because the owners just own that league and they don't want to like sacrifice one of their own.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I would sign the petition. You know, like I as a
We
viewer.
should start it, dude. We should start a petition.
Yeah, as a viewer, like I don't see how that hurts the game,
No,
other than keeping people accountable.
and here's the other and I've watched English soccer here and there. Soccer itself is a very particular sport. It can be hard to watch. It can be slow. I just think like they're so unique in the way that they structure their league. Like the other thing that this relegation does is it legitimizes amateur teams. Like
Yeah.
they're like the so like in the G League, it's always like, oh, like the Lakers have the South Bay Lakers and the Warriors have the Santa Cruz Warriors. Like they're just an affiliate. But no, you do it so where those G League teams are their own like cities teams with their own owners, and they'll still be making probably millions of dollars in profit, maybe not that
Yeah.
much, but they'll still be making a profit. And you can bring in like more ownership to the NBA, but not have them be on the pro level. It could be like more like an amateur league, and like a lot of like the amateur league and like the Premier League is like fans watch that shit like
Yeah.
all the time because it's like this team might be able to get to the pro league and then like win a title, which actually has happened a few times. That's where it's like it even like you can bring in like more viewership, local viewership. Um, like with
And then you leverage that underdog bias that you're talking about. That like people love to cheer for an underdog.
exactly. But you can't just make it an affiliate. You have to have it be its own ownership. Like some startup company, like the owner of some startup company, like just made it rich, and the guy's like, I don't want to like shell out like my company just to buy
Yeah, like the
the
Tesla lightning bolts will be the Tesla lightning bolts, and we'll be this new basketball team.
yeah, like Elon Musk is like, I don't want to like sell like half my fortune, but I would be willing to like, buy an amateur team for like, I don't know, like 10 million more. Like and then you get like more unique perspectives. That's where I think
Capitalize the game, man.
well, that's why like everyone like nuts over like capitalism. It's like that is like the antithesis of like all our sports leagues. They're all monopolies, and all the owners like are like in this like special group that like barrier to entry is like insanely tough. Like,
That's a really interesting juxtaposition. That yeah, our sports leagues are early monopolistic developing economy, and we need to modernize it with capitalist ideals.
I think it would actually like this is the one time I think capitalism would benefit.
Yeah.
I guess this is where like I mean we can get into a whole thing.
Economics and
I mean,
politics.
if I had to say truthfully, capitalism is just a monopoly that we disguise as capitalism. But if you want true competition,
A free market.
yeah, and you can do it in the amateur. Just make an amateur. That's what's happening with the XFL. And people, it's gaining some traction, man. Like there are some like NFL like players who didn't quite make it going over there. And they're getting more money, so they're actually like signing some like NFL players. Like that's what I like. That's what I think. And the G League's been trying to do that.
But the G, like you're saying, like it can't just be an affiliate. Like the G League's always going to be like a developmental league because they're so connected with the NBA. You need some kind of rivalry in terms of organizations.
No, yeah, I mean,
like G League, the best player on a given team is going to get taken by the professional team, so they're never going to be able to compete as a team.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't have an incentive necessarily to because they're just like a farm system for like the I'm talking about baseball, but same thing. It's like
no, you're right.
That's where like no, it's like these. That's the other thing is like those amateur league franchises in Europe or in the English leagues for soccer are like they have an incentive to keep their good players because they're like we could get promoted to the next league, and
it's really interesting.
And so like we're not going to give away this guy who's like not amazing. He's not like the best player ever, but he's like really good, and we could trade him for like or let's just keep him and like let's make it to the pro league and we'll make more money. It's just an incentive. Like I don't know. I know it'll never happen, but I wish it would happen.
I can't think of a really good argument against it.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can't either. It's just like the fans don't run these sports leagues, which
exactly
is the tough thing.
Power to the people. Power to the people.
Yeah, power to the fan. But yes, we've been ranting for about an hour now, so it was a good episode back. I think it was a good episode back.
Stretching the legs a bit.
Yeah, we don't know.
Back into the rhythm.
Yeah, I gotta get used to talking shop again.
And we're one ball less,
Yeah, I know we usually have 3 balls, but we only have 2 balls right now.
Only got 2 balls today.
So I think hopefully maybe tomorrow or the next day we can get Wiener on, get him talking some shop.
I know he's got some feelings about relegation. I don't remember what they are, but I think he does have feelings.
I don't think he's a robot. I don't think he has any feelings. Is he human? He might be a Westworld person.
Robo Wiener.
Robo Wiener. All right, well, we'll stop it there. Yeah, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Our Twitter account. We don't have a Twitch account. I need to recover that somehow.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, we'll have to alert all of our fans out there that we're back on the airwaves. So yeah, we'll probably do another episode with the Wiener. Probably maybe this week if he's available. But yes, thank you for catching, and we're back. We're back, baby.
Back, baby.